Going to talk about the fog of war. I was going to talk about how green policy has led to has funded Russia's war, but apparently that was covered yesterday, so can't cover it again. So instead, look, these are weapons that are coming into Ukraine to arm the Ukrainian army. So these are from Poland. They're actually Soviet issue. I mean, this is interesting because a lot following the coverage of Ukraine versus Russia can be tricky sometimes because a lot of the equipment is the same. Because obviously, Ukraine's a former Soviet state. Isn't anymore. Definitely doesn't want to be again. But yeah, so this is great to see Polish armaments arriving, and then Swedish on the next one. Swedish AT4s. So yeah, these are anti-tank weapons, can be fired from the shoulder. If we move on to the next one,
yeah, said, yeah.
There's loads of them. Look at this whole warehouse full of these things.
Not bad.
And Javelin anti-tank systems. I don't know if you played Call of Duty, but they're quite an exciting one.
Love them.
Yeah, I don't know if that's how they work in real life, but it's pretty cool.
But they're great online. That's if nothing else.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is where Russia's miscalculated, because they think that when people in the West are going to fight in Ukraine, joining the Ukrainian forces, and they just think, oh, they're just lazy Westerners. It's like, no, we've been playing Call of Duty for decades now. And we know all if we're sent to Pripyat, we know all the hiding spots.
I know how to reload a gun a million ways, apparently.
100%. And you just run along, you just swap guns. You find a gun lying down, you swap it over, good to go.
All the ammo just goes back in the bullets.
Yeah, totally. The magazine never runs out. So yeah, nearly 20,000. If we move on to the next one, nearly 20,000. This is some combat footage of Ukrainian soldiers using UK-supplied anti-tank weapons. Look at this missile. See, it almost clips the side of that building that it's being fired from, which would have been
Abu Hajja moment there.
Yeah.
Do you remember that from ISIS? There was a guy called Abu Hajja who just became a meme because some footage got released of on the ISIS side. There was one fighter called Abu Hajja who had RPGs and kept firing them, and they would just land on the ground.
Oh man, we were just talking about this. Yeah.
Abu Hajja!
There's a guy. He fires it. It just the missile just flops out the front. It wasn't the one that we saw. Was, in fact, I don't actually think it was Islamists. But it just flops out of the front of the launcher like that. So they all absolutely peg it. They all absolutely run before it pops off. I don't know if there is. I don't know if they got fail-safe systems that mean that if it does, hit something, too close to launch, then it doesn't explode. But but I wouldn't want to be hanging around to find out. But yeah, so 20,000 anti-tank missiles, hundreds of anti-tank anti-aircraft weapons, and 5 Russian-made military helicopters seized by American forces in Afghanistan are amongst the consignments. The UK Ministry of Defence, which supplied 2,000 anti-tank missiles to Kyiv shortly before Vladimir Putin's invasion, confirmed yesterday that it's continued delivering weaponry since the Russian assault, and it's all been done, quite on the down low. We're seeing Abrams tanks being delivered by train, but wherever it can, it's been done covertly, because obviously the West doesn't want to inflame tensions and appear to be getting involved in the conflict, even though they clearly are. And yeah, there's reports coming through, but a lot of the information that's coming through is wrong, or is deliberately incorrect propaganda designed to mislead, coming from the Russian side and from the Ukrainian side. Sometimes it's just mistakes because of the fog of war. So I mean, this has been widely reported that actually, if we skip on to the Guardian one, so next one, and then this one. So this is apparently a high-ranking Russian general has been killed, called Vitalijurassimov. There's not much information about him online, and then could they mean this guy? So if we go back to the Wikipedia page, the first one. So this one, if you see, this is a cached copy of the Wikipedia page. This is Valery Gerasimov, who is a very high-ranking general in the Russian army. And if you scroll down a little bit more, you can see he was reported as having died on 7th March 2022, aged 66. And this would have been a huge result for Ukraine to hit somebody who's been a chief of staff and an advisor to Putin, very high-ranking general with lots of military success under his belt. But then if we move on next, it's actually, that was incorrect. This is the trouble with Wikipedia. Anybody can go in and, I mean, this page is locked to avoid anybody editing it, but anybody can go in and make changes. And there's misinformation flying around. So I'm just postulating here as well. This could be more misinformation. But if we go back to the Guardian one in the next tab, I think they could have thought that this guy, because it's basically a very similar name, Russia's Major General Vitalijurassimov, sounds a lot like Valery Gerasimov. So I don't know if there's crossed wires there. If we move on to the next one, Trump. So Trump got involved. He was speaking at a fundraiser, a Republican fundraiser. I mean, one of the casualties of the Ukraine invasion has been Trump's credibility amongst much of the right. He's great. He's great on culture wars. He's less good on war wars. Although there are some who say that his unpredictability makes him made Putin nervous, makes China nervous. They don't know, they can't plan military operations. They can't plan things knowing where they're going to go because Trump is such a wild card. They really thought that he could. He joked about or bragged about being able to nuke whoever he wanted, being able to nuke North Korea. He's like, I've got a big, he's got a nuclear weapon. I've got bigger nuclear weapons. And it's like, well, so Moscow, with Biden, with a more stable government, know that they're not going to fire off nuclear weapons, unless it's absolute doomsday and the ICBMs are heading our way.
I mean, I'm not hugely into understanding the Ukrainian war, but I remember Joy was a leaked document, a China Uncensored went through it, from the Chinese Navy. And one of the things in there, they were commenting on their enemies and just like, well, okay, the United States, how do we combat them? What are their greatest strengths? And in their greatest strengths was the fact that we have no idea what the hell they're doing. The Americans were considered the most unpredictable enemy and therefore the most dangerous because of that, not just because of all the warships.
Yeah. So. But I think that, geopolitical chaos also created an environment where Russia felt that it could invade Ukraine as well. And the saber rattling from the West, almost made it, obviously Iraq and Afghanistan, our debacles, we can't, it's hard for us to, take the moral high ground when we've done, similar invasions for ideologically, maybe better reasons, but with horrible outcomes.
They're Nazis, bro. Trust me, is not as good as I think they've got WMDs. Even and also Saddam Hussein, clearly a despot, clearly an absolute tyrant. Horrible for his people. But then this naivety that we can go in and depose Saddam Hussein, and by taking him and his apparatus out, a European democracy is going to spring up in the desert. It's absolute nonsense. Democracy is absolutely dependent on institutions such as free courts, free judiciary that are unbribable and impervious to influence, and a fourth estate that holds truth, speaks truth to power. Anyway, Trump has said at a Republican fundraiser that the US should put Chinese flags on F-22 jets and bomb the S out of Russia. Which he's joking, obviously.
I mean, he is joking, but I mean,
that would be funny as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's maybe not the time for jokes like that. I don't know, but and other events. We move on to the next one. Georgia has sped up its application to join the EU. So Ukraine as well has joined the EU. So if Putin wanted to weaken the EU and wanted to weaken NATO, he's certainly gone about it the wrong way, because everybody's upping their funding to NATO, everybody's upping their military capacity, and the EU has certainly come out of this much strengthened. And funnily enough, I saw a troll post that Belarus had put in an application to join the EU, but maliciously, and I believed it for a good while.
To be honest, you can imagine Lukashenko doing it for a laugh.
Yeah.
Like, yes, dictatorship. No, we have election. 83%, remember?
Yeah. And in other strange Ukraine invasion news, so a restaurant in Canada, in Quebec, has been attacked, has received threats because it serves poutine, which is sort of like gravy, chips, and cheese curd. It's basically chips and gravy and cheese, but they can't call it that because they're not a takeaway in Newcastle, so they've got to be fancy, call it poutine. And people, it's received threats because people think that's somehow linked to Putin.
They've renamed it what, like Vladimir Vladimirovich?
Yeah, it's spelled a different way. It's obviously nothing to do with it. Also, in the stunning and brave news on the next one, so I can't verify this, but it's come from a Telegram group that has broken a lot of news before it gets into the papers, and obviously you're going to read this in the Guardian. So this is a Ukrainian woman who transitioned. And which, I mean, I think we can all agree that that's incredibly brave.
Have they, or have they just put tissue paper?
No, that's transitioning.
Right,
yeah.
Okay.
So, if they've gone through they identify as a woman.
For the 5 people who don't know, men are conscripted in Ukraine to fight in the war. The women and children can leave the country.
Yeah, but I'm sure this is completely unrelated to that. I mean, the fact that she then tried to leave the country is absolutely fair because she's a woman now, because she says she's a woman. So, I mean, it's interesting. Some people are saying she's not brave because she's trying to leave the war zone instead of fighting. But surely that's offset.
Come out as a woman.
Surely that's offset by the bravery of transitioning.
Yeah. I did actually, we've got a border guard who sends us information in Slovakia. I asked him this question because people kept asking me, and I was like, look, I'm sorry, mate, but the West is an hellhole. What's going on with the trans women? And he just wrote back, just like, what? He eventually ended up just saying, I'll just let them leave because I don't want to deal with this.
Right.
So that's the Slovakian policy.
Yeah.
Presumably the Ukrainian side of it, they're not so...
And a lot of Ukrainian women are staying and fighting. And I'm sure Ukrainian trans women are staying and fighting as well, because of course in the West,
for LGBT rights,
we're fighting. Well, yeah, absolutely, and we're fighting for freedom. We're fighting for the freedom to, if you want to have daft pronouns, absolutely go for it. You know what I mean? That's absolutely fine. I don't like it when they then scream at us and stuff. But I'm absolutely fine for people to have whatever pronouns they want, as long as if it's difficult for me to remember them and stuff, then I might
the right
not get them right.
Thank you very much.
But that is in the West. We're fighting for this liberal democracy, which you can't have in Russia. So if I was a transgender woman, and I am because I identify as a woman, which means that I'm now a transgender woman, then I would be fighting Russia. Luckily, I'm a Scottish man, so I can just sit on my bum in safety in an island.
Still very brave.
Yeah, I'd still be brave, yeah. And yeah, the Daily Star has got involved. The Daily Star, if we've got any viewers, the UK has got this tradition of having weird newspapers that just print made-up nonsense. And the Daily Star is one of them. So they're saying that a UFO unleashed a lightning attack against Russian tanks after Ukrainian people prayed for God to intervene. And I don't know. I think, this is one thing that the Daily Star can just step away from and just not have stories about. You've got other stuff to write nonsense about. I don't think this is...
I think they may have been the ones who reported that the Nazis have gone to the moon.
Yeah.
And they're on the dark side of the moon. Trust me, bro.
Yeah. But they reported that 60 years after the Nazis had been vanquished. So, that made more sense. This is happening right in the middle of a live military conflict that's killing, women and children and men. It's also sad when men die. So yeah, and Lotus Eaters, I'm going to do a bit about Lotus Eaters being infiltrated by Momentum, because I got here today and somebody was like, I saw you been, well, I won't say the word because it's the C word, ing off Lotus Eaters, and I was like, yeah, I probably have. Then I was like, well, what are they talking about? And I couldn't remember. But yeah, I've seen a lot in the sort of, I don't know what we'd call ourselves. Are we alt-rightish?
No, that's white nationalism.
What is like just sort of unwoke? Liberal. Classic
English liberal.
English.
Not this American weird definition where it's including socialism.
Yeah, classic English liberal. So I've seen a lot in the sort of on the right, because I'm a conservative. I'm a sort of Reaganite, conservative. I'm quite patriotic. I believe hugely, very strongly in Western liberal democracy. I think it's the best system out there, and I think it's a tragedy that across the world only 6.4% of people live under democracy. I thought it was much higher, but it was actually terrifyingly small. And democracy is very rare, and it's the only place where the masses can have a happy, free life. And I think that's what we need. We need to feel free and to say what we want and stuff like that. So I've been posting about it. So I posted this: dear fellow right-wing contrarian edgelords, being pro-Putin isn't the hot take you think it is. Being unpatriotic, anti-democratic and anti-West doesn't make you spicy. It makes you Jeremy Corbyn. And somebody replied on the next one. Wait, are we missing one? Oh yes, so somebody replied saying, "I've not watched Lotus Eaters in days because I just know." So there are some people that this isn't my criticism. That's just what somebody replied.
No, but I mean, where have we been pro Putin?
So if we go to I couldn't actually, but I mean I can't watch all the videos, man. It'd take ages. But Carl did post this. So if we look at this is the sort of thing I'm talking about. So. I just, I commented on this. Carl, I don't think we're now unfollowing each other. I don't remember doing that. So I don't know what happened there. But I think this is such a sort of a misdirection. Like to say that, people are just sheep following the herd, like Biden Harris. Fair enough. Liberals follow the herd. They're all like, oh yeah, I'm going to vote for Biden and Harris. And quite often they'll say that and actually vote for Trump. Then the face mask thing, yeah, there's, all right, a lot of people were wearing it, because they're worried about COVID. A lot of people were wearing it because they thought it was the right thing to do. But a lot of people are just doing it, because they're following the herd. I think COVID was, one of those things where, there's a strong case that our rights are being threatened. But with the Ukraine crisis, this isn't a partisan. This is where the culture wars fall down. This is something that we should all be. People aren't sharing the Ukrainian flag because they see other people doing it and they think it's the cool thing to do. People are seeing the footage of like children and women being killed and maimed and all these like artillery attacks by Russia, completely unnecessary artillery attacks. And people say, oh, but it's provoked by the West because the West got involved in Ukraine. It's like, man, the West is involved in Ukraine because the Ukrainian people want to be part of the West. They don't want to be part of Russia. They're not having revolutions. They're not having, people describe it as a coup. It's not. It's a civic uprising. People want to, like in the 90s, 90% of the population voted to be independent from the Soviet Union. People want to be part of the West. Zelensky got 3/4 of the vote because he was a West-leaning anti-corruption candidate. Obviously, there's it's always been a sort of proxy war. Russia's been sending people in, especially to Donbass to destabilize Ukraine. It's got saboteurs all the way through Ukraine. I mean, Russia does far more to destabilize the West than the West does to destabilize Russia. Russia is destabilized by the West just purely from the fact that people want to be in the West. They want to be free. They want to be prosperous. They want to be able to do what they want to do, work where they want to work. And
authoritarian governments shut down all the criticism.
Yeah.
Just any kind of criticism of the narrative.
Yeah,
I should say, I think you're not seeing this for what it is, which is we did a segment on this effect. So it was about the fact that the George Floyd effect, as it was dubbed. So people see a thing and then just jump on the thing, even not knowing anything about it or speaking about it ever before. And you can see this with some people when you see them talking about Ukraine. And when they say things like Ukraine is George Floyd or non-binary children and Ukraine, they're the same. Do you think these people have any idea what the hell they're talking about?
But that's a fraction. That's real, fringe. That's, it's easy to just take
they are symptomatic
some obscure
of a problem.
fringe tweets.
Well, no, because you remember, what was it, the writer, Mr. King, and all the rest of them, they got like tens of thousands of likes on twitter.com. And these are tens of thousands of people hitting like for the dumbest of dumb takes you've ever heard. And it's like, right, you're a Yankee living in California, or apparently New England for him, who don't know anything, couldn't point to Ukraine on a map, and are yet obsessed with, I have the strongest opinion. It's just like, please leave. Please leave, Yankee leftist. Like, I don't want your opinion on this.
Yeah, but you're not going to... Ukraine is one of these things where you don't need to pore over history books and, obsess over geopolitical theory to know that it's bad that Russia has gone into a sovereign state and just started killing people.
Illegal war bad, yes.
Yeah, illegal war bad.
That's simple, but that's not what's being discussed, especially by those online, which we can see getting huge traction, saying the dumbest of dumb things.
Yeah, but I mean, like, that's social media, because I've noticed that with my video about the Ukraine crisis. So I was, I pointed out, the ridiculous opinions on the left from Corbyn, Diane Abbott, people like that. But then I was like, but also, there's crazy takes on the right from Trump, Pompeo, Carlson, blowing smoke up Putin's ass and, basically feeding the Russian propaganda machine. And if I had just gone after the left, I would have got a lot more shares. Social media really prioritizes really highly partisan, ends of the horseshoe, extremist viewpoints. If you take a nuanced, balanced view, then you sort of please nobody. People are so tribal these days, and it's not just wired into our brains; it's actually wired into the algorithms that feed us stuff. I think it's quite a sort of dangerous.
Maybe I don't see this from the right from the same extent. I mean, I see the leftist takes, and they're so far from reality to the point of Cenk Uygur talking about racial politics in regards to a white nation invading a white nation.
Yeah.
And then you see Tucker Carlson, who will say stuff like, "Oh, geopolitically, I can see why Russia are doing this, and we are partly responsible for expanding
But you
NATO."
expect it from the left.
Well, no, those two takes are so different from looking at reality that it's not even comparable in my view to talk about them, because saying here's an example of why Russia feels this way versus this is about racial politics.
But I
mean, that's another level of what on earth do you want?
You expect nuttiness from the left. I mean, I think this meme that's crept into the right of centre, that anybody who speaks out against the Russian invasion of Ukraine is a sheep following the herd. I think the real sheep are the people following that idea, to be honest. I think I think Reagan would be spinning in his grave to see the response from people in the right, and to see I've seen it in WhatsApp groups as well that I'm in with right of center people, where they're talking about being Putin pilled and saying how Putin is strong and the West is weak and decadent, and it's like, no, actually, Putin can't even invade Ukraine. It's been 2 weeks now. He's still not done it.
I mentioned before, I remember the last time he can't even guard his own borders.
Yeah.
So no, this is silly.
And with Putin being held up as this sort of bastion of Christendom, when actually Putin is using Chechen Muslim militia to attack Ukrainian Christian troops. It's Putin is absolute poison.
They are both really most orthodox, so it's. I get your point, but
but the Chechens are Muslim.
I know, but there are also Chechens fighting on the Ukrainian side because they want an independent Chechnya.
Yeah,
because the Chechens were invaded when they declared their independence because it was unlawful, and I'm not getting into that.
Yeah, and they see what's he called, Kadyrov. Kadyrov.
So Kadyrov is leading the side who are accepting Putin's deal, and then there are guys who are like, no, independent Chechnya, we're with the Ukrainians on this. We'll fight here.
Yeah. So they're going to fight incredibly bitterly against who they see as a traitor.
Yeah, there's also them there. But the idea that we've been pro-Putin, I don't get, because we've not really taken a position on any of the war. But the idea with Putin, I mean, I've mentioned to you previously, I mean, the dude literally kills his opposition in public.
Yeah.
And gets away with it.
Yeah.
All of these myths.
Kills people in the UK.
Yeah, he makes all these myths about how he's a strong guy on immigration and stuff, but can't even control his border with Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
Militarily, let's not get into that. And all the rest of it. A lot of this is online memes.
Yeah. But
if someone just falls into that and has never visited Russia and actually seen or gone to talk to people.
Yeah. But anyway, I disagree with this meme. I think I posted valid reasons. I don't see that as mugging off Lotus eaters. Or if it is, I should be allowed to mug people off. So the next tab, which is the one before that. Not that.
Sorry about this.
This is. All right. I thought there was another one. So yeah, if we
don't have it, you can just describe him. It'd be easier.
I can't remember what it was. But yeah, so actually we're probably running out of time for this section. I was just going to talk about the sanctions against Ukraine, which are so they've cut Netflix, social media.
You mean against Russia?
Against Russia. Sorry, yeah. So the sanctions against Russia, basically all Western companies have cut deals, across all industries, have just stopped providing. The only thing we're obviously still doing business with is the oil and gas, because we need it. We've left ourselves completely exposed, and it's a huge amount. It's $800 million a day we're still feeding to Russia. It's like we've cut off their payment systems and stuff, so we're going to have to find a different way of paying them. I mean, cut off their foreign reserves, we're still going to have to pay them. It's ridiculous.
I do respect the hustle of the West right now in this regards, because we're selling weapons to the Ukrainians while buying Russian oil, and we're making money off both.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, okay, I can respect the hustle in that.
Yeah.
It's just like, right, we're going to make money.
Yeah.
All right. That's your
and money
response.
makes the world go round. And also, if you stop people earning, as Putin's going to find out soon, if you stop your captains earning, they're going to be angry and they're going to want their nice money and their nice lifestyles back, and they're going to want their houses in London and their private schools for their children back, and they're going to execute you. So that's I predict that happening to Putin soon. The longer shot is China annexes Russia. But yeah, so Netflix, social media, including TikTok, which is a Chinese one, which is interesting. Pornhub have all stopped doing business in Russia, which I think that could backfire. That's just going to lead to a spike in Russian productivity.
OnlyFans too. Apparently that's back up now, but for a day
really?
they did take them all down.
And Apple have stopped selling products in Russia, so they won't be able to get the latest iPhone. But that's going to feed into Russian military strategy, because everybody's going to switch to the Nokia 3210, which is a phone built for the battlefield. It's indestructible. And the battery charge lasts for about 2 weeks. I don't know what battery technology they were using 30 years ago, but they need to get that in Teslas. Teslas can only go about 200 miles. If you had a Nokia 3210 battery in a Tesla,
you could play Snake all day.
All
at
day.
School,
You can play Snake while you're driving, circumnavigating the globe.
Don't.
But yeah, so I better stop there because we've only got a little bit of time left. But basically, freedom of speech, the right needs to look at itself and think. I think Reagan would have been firmly against Putin and what he's doing. And when we talk about, man, I know the culture wars are going on, but we're on the same side as all the leftists. I'm not talking about the extreme leftists, but we're on the same side as Guardian readers when it comes to Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
I don't know what happening with your WhatsApp groups. I mean, you mentioned other people, but the only thing I've seen we've been criticized on for saying is potentially pro-Putin is I don't want Russia today banned or Sputnik or whatnot in the West, because I think it's important to be able to see the propaganda and know what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, number one, so you can know what your enemy's up to, and what they're thinking, and what the Russian people are being told, because then you know how to speak to them in a way without knowing what they've been told. And also because I don't like the idea that we are no longer a liberal country. I mean, if you say that we cannot have a discussion which does not include anything that can be critical of Kiev or NATO, then, well, we're living in a world where we can only praise our own propaganda. It's well, that's not liberalism. That's not the world I want to live in. I want to be on the side where we know we're right because we've gone through all the arguments, and damn well we definitely are right, and we can prove it.
Yeah.
So that's why I think these things should be allowed, and therefore we can, show them up for being wrong.
Yeah.
So. If you appreciated that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as this contemplation series by Josh and John here on a country profile on, very topical, Ukraine, of course. And if you want to find out what else Josh is up to, you can follow him at Getter at @Josh_firm. Thank you and goodbye.